Thank you. Thank you.
Our next submission is from Mika Herval. Arrived just in time.
Indeed.
You've got 5 minutes, and that includes any questions or comments from the committee.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Kia ora. My name's Anya. This is Mika. We believe this bill's intention to imprison refugees is abhorrent and unjustified. In our submission, we wanted to address 3 things. Firstly, that imprisoning refugees is expensive and does not deter arrivals. Second, that there is no such thing as a queue and queue jumpers. And finally, we have a community-based response which is cheap, works, and complies with human rights. And we should stick to that. To our first point, evidence shows that a community-based response is 69 to 93% cheaper than imprisonment. It would cost approximately $250 per day to keep someone in prison in Aotearoa. Studies show that detention does not deter refugees. This is because refugees don't always know the policies of the country they are entering. Moving out of necessity, sometimes they don't even know where a smuggler is taking them and therefore have no way of knowing these policies. And even if they do know, imprisonment is still often preferred to whatever they face back home.
I was reading through the Hansard first reading of this bill, and it seems like some people, including you, Mr. Brownlee, are under some false impressions about the international legal system and think there is a queue which refugees who arrive here would be jumping. I want to be clear. Under international law, which New Zealand has agreed to and is a signatory of, it is legal to arrive in Aotearoa and seek asylum. They're not jumping a queue by doing that. When an asylum seeker applies at the UNHCR for resettlement, whether they get resettled depends on a mix of factors and continual flux. Are they in immediate danger or in a relatively safe place? Are they under threat of death or torture? Are there any other UNHCR cases in the area that take precedence to guarantee someone's immediate safety? It's like a triage on an international scale. And if a conflict somewhere gets worse, all the priorities will change again. This is why sometimes the refugee can be resettled in 48 hours or 2 decades. And also, if you make if you make the cut for resettlement, your destination country might not want you, and you'll be at the mercy of officials who come and select refugees for their countries. Saying there is a queue is false, and I think that shows a clear ignorance of the realities of refugee law and politics.
We also have a response that works already. New Zealand has a proud and good record of human rights, hosting refugees in the community while we process their applications. Instead of putting more strain on our prison system, let's put more resources toward funding a world-leading community-based response. That way we can honour the rights of the world's most desperate instead of throwing them in jail.
In summary, this bill, in our view, is legally indefensible and morally reprehensible. I want to live in a country where we love and accept people, and we don't breed a culture of xenophobia and hurt the world's desperate people who come seeking. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you for your submission. We do have a very short period of time for questions.
We kind of took a whole 5 minutes.
No, that's all good. I just wonder, thank you so much. I also want to live in that world. Could you just expand upon, if you can very quickly, in terms of what would resourcing a world-leading community-based response that would address some of these issues that this bill is purporting to respond to? How would that look?
Yeah, I mean, first, I don't have a lot of time, but there's a great book by a New Zealand journalist called A Quiet War on Asylum, which has a lot of, it talks about a lot of these interesting things that I read to do some background reading for this bill. And it seems like in terms of resourcing, there are things that we need like housing and food and sort of quite basic things. And then also often there's assistance needed navigating our legal system, and also those are some main things. And then also like language, overcoming language barriers and those things. And as we said before, those things are often a lot cheaper and a lot more humane than putting someone in prison.
That's been the EU's response, right, to the influx right now. Yeah.
We really appreciate your time. Thank you for your submission, both in writing and being here as well.
Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon.